If you are planning to become a data scientist in 2025, a very natural question you would have in your mind is that, is it still worth it to learn data science, considering that AI tools like Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT are becoming so much smarter and they can write SQL code, they can write Python code, and they can do a lot of data analysis and even prediction work on its own, then what is the value we as a data scientist can bring to the table? I'll try to answer exactly this question based on my decade of experience working in the US as a data scientist for companies like Meta, Cisco, and Wells Fargo. And I'll share my thoughts on what the future looks like for data science jobs in the US tech industry, considering we are going to see these AI tools becoming so much smarter in the future. So let's start with the big question, that is it still worth it to become a data scientist in today's day and age when we are seeing that AI is becoming so much powerful and so much smarter that it can write pretty much any kind of code you ask it to write. And so much so that AI agents are so much smarter that you can just hint at what is the problem you're trying to solve, and it can come up with what should be different kind of algorithms it can apply. It can write the code for those, and even when it encounters any kind of errors or problems, it has enough intelligence that it can debug itself. If needed, it can also do Google search to see that why it is running into some issues, and it can create an end-to-end code pipeline for you, which you can just run and get the results. And in a similar fashion, we are seeing a lot of layoffs happening. Both the companies I've worked for in the last 5 years, Meta and Cisco, had massive layoffs. Tens of thousands of people laid off in a single day. And a lot of those layoffs, people are attributing at least some chunk of it is happening because AI is taking over our jobs. And then we're also seeing a lot of saturation happening for data science roles and other tech roles as well. I previously did a video where I showed that for a lot of junior data science roles on LinkedIn, there are over 1,000 applicants. So if 1,000 plus applicants have applied to a data science job, and you're also one of those 1,000 applicants, then what are your odds of actually landing a job? So all of that is inculcating a lot of fear, and we have a lot of data points to actually back it. And the hope here is that, which I'm going to further illustrate in this video, is that it is not a doomsday for data science or tech roles that the entire industry is going to get eliminated. It's most likely a change in the landscape, which means that we have to change our perspective and our skill set and our attitude towards learning data science and any other tech skill. And what that change looks like, I'm going to talk about in this video. So first, let's look at some numbers, because emotions can go in either way. You can become very excited, you can become very depressed. But let's look at the numbers in a very objective way, because numbers don't lie. First, we can see that the demand for AI, data science, machine learning, generative AI skills are not only growing, they are exploding. According to Bureau of Labor and Statistics in the US, the data science field is projected to grow by 35% by 2032. So they made this projection in 2022, and this was for the next 10 years. So by 2032, it is anticipated that the field of data science is going to grow at a very big rate of 35% growth. Now, if you compare it against a lot of other jobs, even tech jobs, for a lot of them, either the projected growth rate is zero, sometimes it is negative, and at best it's like 8 to 10%. So 35% is a very big growth projection, and it is coming from one of the most reliable data sources. It is a very well-funded US organization, which is called Bureau of Labor and Statistics, whose whole job is to basically understand the patterns in the labor market and make projections about it. So it is as credible as it can get. And then the other thing which we are seeing is that the salaries in the field of data science, AI, ML, they are still top tier. The median salary in the US currently for data science role is $157,000. Now, when you compare it against what is the overall median salary in the US, depending on which source you consult, you would see different results. But Generally, it would be somewhere in the ballpark of $50,000 to $60,000. So data science field is commanding 3 times the salary of national average, which basically means that companies still are willing to pay premium for people who have this kind of skill set. And it just does not happen by accident or just because people have college degree. Companies only pay you this kind of salary when they think that the skill set you have is actually very, very useful and beneficial for them. So the opportunity backed by these numbers is not only real, and it is actually growing. The opportunity within this field is growing at a very alarming rate of 35% projected growth, stated as projected by Bureau of Labor and Statistics Department in the US. So does it mean that you should just not worry about these AI tools becoming smarter with every passing day? Well, no. The landscape is changing and you should equip yourself for that change. So let's see what kind of impact AI is having on data science job and data science field. So if you think that your job as a data scientist is to write SQL queries like select star from this table where this condition, etc., well, that kind of tasks are going to get automated. They're already automated. AI can write better SQL queries than you can, most likely. But does it mean that AI can do everything a data scientist is supposed to do? Well, I don't think so. So let's see what kind of things data scientists usually do. I think that most of day-to-day tasks of a data scientist, it falls into 3 buckets. So let's look at that. I can plot it in a pyramid structure. So think of this as a pyramid and it has 3 stages. The very basic stage is that of execution. So this is where you write the code, where you develop pipelines, where you implement basic modeling, etc. The next stage, which requires a little more effort, is that of analysis. Now, machines can do some analysis. They can flag you different data trends, but a human has to actually look at it. And you have to do the analysis and make some judgment calls on what you should be doing and what you should not be doing. And then the top layer is that of strategy. Now, when we look at what kind of impact AI would have on these 3 stages, the stage of execution, I believe, is going to get automated. Maybe 70 to 80% of these jobs, these tasks will be automated with the help of AI. The analysis part, at best, I would say about 30% of this would be automated. But as for the strategy, I don't think even a single percent of this is going to become automated because of AI. And the way this is changing the field of data science is that previously, a typical data scientist would have to spend probably about 70 to 80% of their work on the execution, maybe 20% on analysis, and 10% on the strategy. But with this level of automation, this number is going to change much more. Now, you should be spending a lot of time on strategy and then some time on analysis. And you should try to leverage the help of most AI tools so that you could automate as much as possible of this execution stage so that you can focus on strategy rather than execution, because strategy is what moves the needle in the business. Companies do not care how sophisticated your code is, how lengthy your code is. Companies care, can you help them solve business problems or not? And by focusing on strategy and leveraging the help of AI tools to automate the execution stage, you can actually move the needle on some business impact measures. And that is what the future of data science jobs looks like. Now, in terms of logistics of how do you adopt and focus on strategy, the framework I generally recommend that instead of becoming a generalist data scientist, you should aim to become a T-shaped specialist data scientist. So what do I mean by that? So as a data scientist, you should have expertise in a very wide variety of areas. This includes statistics, machine learning, generative AI, the domain expertise, a lot of other stuff. So you should have a little bit of knowledge in all these areas. This is very wide. But then you should pick one lane and then go as deep into it as possible. So this is your specialty area, and it could be NLP. It could be related to a specific domain. Some people have a very good expertise in healthcare. Then you specialize as a healthcare data scientist. I have some friends who had a very good understanding of cybersecurity and how you can use AI in cybersecurity to make the security of your applications foolproof. So whatever your specialty is, pick one lane and then go deep into it. Because the thing is that AI is a very, very good generalist. It knows something about everything. So you cannot beat AI at being a generalist. This thing, AI is very good. But this thing here, the specialty track, that is where you would shine as a human, because AI is still not very good at understanding the nuances and a little bit of complexities of little things. And when you become an expert at one thing, then you can definitely beat what AI can perform as being a human. So the key takeaway is that generalists are being replaced by people who are specialists. And in the future, specialists would be much more in demand, and they would have much easier time getting a job as a specialist data scientist rather than just being a generalist data scientist. And if you want to not only survive but thrive as a data scientist in this day and age of AI, then the biggest change you have to make is in your mindset. Instead of thinking like a coder, you have to think like a consultant. Always think that what you can do to move the needle on what matters the most to the business. Think as a data consultant rather than a data coder, because AI can write the code now. Where you have to shine is understanding where the biggest constraints of the business are and what kind of solutions you can build and implement so that you can move the needle on things which matter the most to the business. Again, the impact of your job is measured in the dollars saved or dollars earned, not in terms of how good code you have written and how many lines of code you have written. That doesn't matter. What is the business impact? And try to think from that perspective. Try to understand different frameworks of problem solving. Ask why 5 times before you start writing a single line of code. Make sure whatever you're trying to technically implement, it has some sort of alignment with the business you're working for. And a very good exercise I generally recommend is that start with a basic high-level understanding of what the business wants to do. In most cases, if it is a for-profit business, their main job is that they want to make profit. Okay, so if a business wants to make profit, how they can make profit? Well, there are 2 ways. One, they can decrease the amount of money they are spending, or they can increase the revenue they are getting. Okay, then the next question is, how can they decrease the spend? There would be a couple of ways they can do it. And then how can they increase the revenue? There would be a couple of ways to do it. And then for each of those, you can go further deep down. But do this analysis, understand how your business works, understand how the products your companies are selling, how do they work? And then try to align whatever you are doing to the top line metric, which is basically making profit for most for-profit companies. And if you could show that the work you are doing helps the company either make money or save money, you would be very much irreplaceable. It doesn't matter how smarter AI becomes. And for that kind of talent, companies are always looking for, because they know that that kind of data scientist who thinks as a business consultant, as a data consultant, rather than just a coder, is immensely helpful for the company. So the key takeaway is data science jobs are not shrinking, they're actually expanding. This is data coming right from the government sources. However, the landscape is changing. You need to embrace AI in your workflow so that you could automate a lot of repetitive and time-consuming tasks. And you should be focusing on the strategy piece of your business so that you could help the company you're working for to make more money. And if you have that mindset, then I have no doubt in my mind that you would not only survive, but actually thrive and become a very successful data scientist in the year 2025 and every year which is coming after. Thank you so much for watching.